Millionaire's son was blind, until the black cleaner rubbed his eyes and something impossible happened. "Dad, what color is the sky?" Tyler's innocent question cut through the silence of the office like a knife. Robert Blackstone, CEO of one of Chicago's wealthiest families, felt his chest tighten. How could he explain colors to eyes that had never seen the light? Tyler was only 9 years old and lived in a $15 million mansion, but his world was completely dark. He was born with congenital blindness, and the country's top specialists had already delivered their verdict: untreatable. The optic nerve is irreversibly damaged. Robert had spent more than $3 million on experimental treatments. Clinics in Switzerland, Japanese surgeons, gene therapies in Boston. Nothing worked. His son continued to walk around the mansion with his hands outstretched, bumping into furniture, always depending on someone to guide him. "Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Blackstone," said the hesitant voice from the doorway. "I'm Rose Washington, the new cleaning lady." Robert barely looked up from his laptop. A black woman in her 60s, gray hair tied in a simple bun, faded blue uniform, held a mop in her calloused hands. To him, she was just another temporary hire from the cleaning agency. "The butler will explain your duties." "Stay away from my son," he said coldly, already turning his attention back to the contracts. Rose nodded respectfully, but when she saw Tyler sitting in the corner, hugging a teddy bear, her eyes filled with a compassion that Robert had never noticed in the expensive doctors who paraded through the house. "Hi, sweetie," Rose whispered, kneeling down to the child's height. "What's your name?" "Tyler," replied the boy, turning his face toward the unfamiliar voice. "You seem different from other people." Robert snorted irritably. "Rose, I told you to keep your distance. Tyler, go to your room." But there was something in Rose's eyes, a deep serenity, as if she held secrets that no medical degree could explain. As Tyler got up to leave, she murmured something that made the boy stop. "Sometimes, son, darkness is just what comes before the most beautiful light." Robert frowned. What kind of cleaning lady talked like that? And why was Tyler smiling for the first time in weeks? That night, while Tyler slept, Rose prayed silently in her room at the back of the property. In her worn cloth bag, she kept a small glass jar with a homemade ointment that her grandmother had taught her to make decades ago. It was an old recipe, passed down from generation to generation, which many would say was just superstition. But Rose knew that true healing doesn't always come from the places where money seeks it. If you're enjoying this story of overcoming all odds, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what will happen in the coming days in that mansion will challenge everything you believe to be possible. The following days brought a routine that Robert controlled with military precision. Rose arrived at 6 a.m. to clean the upper floors, always silently, always invisible to her boss's eyes. But Tyler had started waiting for her in the hallways. "Rose, you're back," the boy whispered every morning, locating her by the sound of her soft footsteps. "I always come back, dear. People like me know how to keep promises," she replied, continuing her work while talking softly. Robert watched these interactions from the top of the stairs with growing irritation. During a video conference with Japanese investors, he interrupted the meeting when he heard Tyler laughing in the garden, something that hadn't happened in months. "Excuse me for a moment," he said coldly, turning off the audio. In the garden, he found Rose sitting on the bench next to Tyler, showing him different textures of leaves. The boy touched each one with genuine curiosity, smiling with each discovery. "Rose, I need to talk to you. Now." In the office, Robert slammed the door with unnecessary force. "I told you to stay away from my son." Tyler needs professional therapy, not entertainment from A. He paused, searching for words that would hurt, from someone without qualifications. Rose kept her hands clasped, her voice calm as always. "Mr. Blackstone, I just talk to him while I work. The boy seems lonely. Tyler has the best specialists in Chicago. Dr. Harrison charges $1,000 a session. He doesn't need small talk from a cleaning lady." Robert didn't know that Rose had grown up in rural Louisiana, where her grandmother, Mama Celia, was known as a healer. Since childhood, Rose had watched the old woman prepare remedies from herbs that grew in the backyard. "Some cures come from love, not books," Mama Celia would say, teaching Rose recipes passed down through 5 generations of black women who healed when white doctors refused to serve their community. "With all due respect, sir," Rose said calmly, "your son is sad. Sadness cannot be cured with money." The audacity of the reply made Robert clench his fists. Who did this woman think she was? "You're here to clean the floor, not to give advice about my son. If I hear you talking to Tyler again, you'll be fired on the spot." But Rose had faced powerful men before. During the 1960s, she had marched in Montgomery, cleaned the homes of white families who treated her like furniture, and raised 3 children on her own after her husband died in an unsafe factory. Robert Blackstone was just another rich man who confused money with wisdom. That evening, after Robert left for a business dinner, Rose quietly went up to Tyler's room. The boy was hugging his teddy bear, staring into space with a blank expression. "May I come in, dear?" Tyler smiled for the first time that day. "Rose, I thought Dad had fired you." "Your dad doesn't scare me, Tyler. I've seen men like him all my life." Rose sat down on the bed next to him. "I brought something special today." From her apron pocket, she took out a small cloth sachet. "My grandmother used to say that some plants store sunlight inside them. Smell this." Tyler inhaled the soft scent of lavender mixed with herbs that Rose had picked in her childhood. "It smells like peace." "Exactly. Now close your eyes. I know they're already closed to the light, but close them to everything else. Take a deep breath and tell me what you feel." Tyler obeyed. For a few seconds, he remained silent. Then his expression changed. "Rose, there's a light. A tiny light, but I can see it." Rose's heart raced, but she kept her voice calm. "What kind of light, dear?" "Like a little golden star. It's here inside my head, but it feels real." Rose knew she was witnessing something Robert's doctors would never understand. Her grandmother always said that healing began when the heart found hope. "That light will grow, Tyler. But it's our secret for now, okay?" Over the next few days, Robert noticed subtle changes. Tyler walked with more confidence, stumbled less over furniture, and seemed more alert during the weekly medical appointments that cost a fortune. "Interesting," murmured Dr. Harrison, examining Tyler with state-of-the-art equipment. "His pupillary reflexes are slightly better. Maybe our new experimental protocol is working." Robert smiled with satisfaction. The $50,000 investment in the most advanced treatment in the country was finally showing results. He would never associate his son's improvement with whispered conversations with a cleaning lady. But Rose knew Tyler was changing because for the first time someone was talking to him about possibilities, not limitations. Every night when Robert left, she would quietly go up to the boy's room and apply drops of the homemade ointment she carried in her pocket, the same recipe Mama Celia had used to cure cataracts in dozens of people in the rural community. "Why are you helping me, Rose?" Tyler asked one of those nights. Because I see in you what your father has not yet learned to see, dear. Light does not come from expensive medicines. It comes from faith. Robert would never have imagined that while he was spending fortunes on useless specialists, his son's cure was happening through the calloused hands of the woman he despised most in that house. Each new humiliation Rose received only strengthened her determination to prove that love can see where prejudice blinds, and that sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from the very places the powerful refuse to look. The following weeks brought changes that Rose meticulously documented in an old notebook she kept under her mattress. March 15th, Tyler distinguished light from shadow in the west hallway. March 22nd, recognized my silhouette from 3 meters away. Each progress was noted with the date, time, and witnesses, even if they didn't know they were witnessing a miracle. Robert, completely oblivious to what was happening under his own roof, organized a press conference in the mansion's main hall. Reporters from the Chicago Tribune and CNN occupied golden chairs while he, impeccable in his Armani suit, gestured proudly. My son Tyler is responding extraordinarily well to the experimental treatments I brought from the Mayo Clinic, he announced to the cameras. We've invested $2.5 million this year alone, and the results speak for themselves. Dr. Harrison, at his side, nodded professorially. The protocol developed specifically for Tyler represents the cutting edge of neuro-ophthalmology worldwide. Rose watched from a corner, quietly arranging the cups of coffee she had served. Tyler sat in the front row, smiling shyly at the cameras he couldn't quite see, but whose presence he felt for the first time in his life. When a reporter asked about his care routine, Robert replied without hesitation, "Tyler has the best specialists in the country. Physical therapists from Harvard, behavioral psychologists, an elite team." "What about home caregivers?" insisted a journalist. "Someone from the family who accompanies him daily." Robert gave a condescending laugh. "Our domestic staff is purely functional. People unqualified to deal with such a complex medical case." Rose felt her face burn, but she kept her expression neutral. At that moment, Tyler turned his head toward her, something he had done several times during the interview, as if seeking her comforting presence. The cameras captured the gesture, but no one understood its real meaning. After the journalists left, Rose quietly went up to Tyler's room. The boy was waiting for her, sitting on the bed, more excited than ever. "Rose, today I saw the camera lights. They shone differently from the sunlight." "That's right, dear. Your words were all spot on." Rose sat down next to him, taking her notebook out of her pocket. "Tyler, I need to tell you something important. Everything that's happening to you, these lights you're seeing, it's not because of your father's expensive medicines." Tyler tilted his head, curious. "What do you mean?" "My grandmother, Mama Celia, taught me that some cures come from the heart, not from the hospital. The ointment I use on you was made from plants she grew in her backyard in Louisiana." Rose showed him a faded photo of the old black lady smiling next to a lush garden. "She healed hundreds of people that doctors said were incurable." Tyler touched the photo gently. "Why doesn't Dad believe that?" "Because your father was taught that only expensive things have value, dear. He never learned that the most powerful wisdom sometimes lives in simple places." That night, Rose did something she hadn't done in years. She called her sister Deborah in New Orleans. Deborah was a retired nurse and had spent decades documenting cases of traditional medicine that the mainstream medical community ignored. "Rose, are you sure about what you're doing?" Deborah asked after hearing the whole story. "That rich man could destroy you if he finds out." Deb, that boy was dying inside. Not from blindness, but from neglect. And now he's blossoming. Rose looked at her own reflection in the dark window glass. Mama Celia always said that when you have a gift, you can't hide it out of fear. Then document everything carefully. If that arrogant millionaire wants to take you to court, you'll need proof that our medicine works. Over the next few days, Rose began discreetly photographing Tyler during his daily activities, always with his consent. The boy walking through the hallways without stumbling, identifying objects at increasing distances, smiling as he recognized shapes and silhouettes. Each time-stamped image was irrefutable evidence of real progress. Robert, meanwhile, intensified his self-promotion campaign. During a dinner with other executives, he bragged shamelessly, "You should see Tyler now. The boy is practically cured." Sure, it cost a fortune, but when you have unlimited resources. One of the guests, impressed, asked, "How do you manage the daily care?" "It must be intense." "We have a team, no big deal. The important thing is the real experts." Robert made a point of emphasizing each word, as if to make it clear that ordinary people had no relevance to his son's recovery. In the kitchen, Rose listened to everything while preparing dessert coffee. Each arrogant word only strengthened her determination to expose the truth. One night, Tyler surprised everyone by coming down the stairs alone to get water. Robert, who was working in his office, heard the confident footsteps and went to investigate. He found his son in the kitchen, pouring himself water with precise movements, as if he could see perfectly in the familiar environment. "Tyler, how did you?" The boy turned with a radiant smile. "Dad, I managed to come downstairs on my own. Everything is clearer now." Robert felt a mixture of pride and strangeness. The progress seemed too fast, even for experimental treatments. At that moment, Rose appeared at the kitchen door, coming from the back room where she lived. "Good evening, Mr. Blackstone," she said politely. "I heard a noise and came to check." Tyler immediately lit up even more. "Rose, I showed Dad that I can walk on my own now." The interaction between the two was undeniable. Tyler instinctively gravitated toward Rose, sought her approval, smiled differently in her presence. Robert watched everything with growing discomfort, unable to explain why that dynamic bothered him so much. "Tyler, go back to your room." "It's late," he said curtly. After the boy left, Robert stared at Rose suspiciously for the first time. "How long have you been working here, anyway?" 3 months, sir." "And Tyler, has he always been so close to you?" Rose held his gaze without fear. "Children recognize who truly cares for them, Mr. Blackstone. It's an instinct they don't lose, even when adults do." The answer was like a slap in the face. Robert left without saying another word, but for the first time he began to suspect that there was more going on in his house than he controlled. Rose returned to her room, knowing that the time for secrets was coming to an end. Soon, she would have to reveal not only that Tyler was being healed by her hands, but that all of Robert's pride and arrogance were based on a lie that she had allowed to flourish until now. She opened her notebook and wrote the last entry of the day. "Robert has begun to suspect. Tyler is almost fully recovered. It's time to prepare for the revelation." What Robert Blackstone didn't realize was that every arrogant word he had uttered in public, every credit he had falsely claimed, every time he had belittled Rose in front of others, was being carefully documented by someone who knew exactly how to use that evidence when the time was right to show the world who had really brought the light back to Tyler's eyes. The revelation began unexpectedly. During a seemingly routine breakfast, Tyler ran down the stairs, something unthinkable a few weeks ago, and shouted excitedly, "Dad, I can see the colors of the garden from my bedroom window. The green of the trees, the blue of the pool, even the red flowers Rose planted." Robert almost dropped his coffee cup. Red flowers? What red flowers? "The ones Rose brought from her house and planted under my window so I could practice distinguishing colors," Tyler replied innocently, unaware that he had just dropped the first bombshell. Robert's mind raced. Rose had never asked permission to plant anything. How did Tyler know about flowers she had supposedly planted secretly? And more importantly, how could a theoretically blind boy see such specific details? "Tyler, go play in the garden. I need to talk to Rose." When Rose appeared in the kitchen, Robert stared at her with an intensity she had never seen before. "I want you to explain to me, word for word, what you have been doing to my son." Rose took a deep breath. After months of lying by omission, the moment of truth had arrived. "Mr. Blackstone, your son was dying inside. Not from blindness, but from neglect. All I did was give him the love and attention that the doctors couldn't give him." "That doesn't answer my question. How is Tyler seeing things that you did secretly?" It was then that Rose took the worn notebook from her apron pocket, which had meticulously documented Tyler's progress. "Because I've been healing him for 3 months, Mr. Blackstone. With home remedies my grandmother taught me, with patience you never had, and with faith your fortunes couldn't buy." Robert snatched the notebook from her hands and began flipping through it frantically. Date after date, note after note, time-stamped photographs of Tyler's improvements. March 15th, Tyler distinguished light from shadow. March 22nd, recognized my silhouette from 3 meters away. April 2nd, correctly identified the blue color of the pool. "That's impossible," Robert muttered, but his voice no longer had the same conviction. "Impossible is what you believed for 3 months while publicly boasting about a cure you didn't deliver," Rose replied calmly. "Every press conference, every interview, every time you claimed credit for Tyler's recovery, you were lying. And I have proof of everything." At that moment, Tyler ran into the kitchen, stopping abruptly when he sensed the tension in the air. "What's going on? Why are you fighting?" Robert looked at his son, really looked at him, for the first time in months. Tyler was different. His eyes were bright, his movements were confident, he smiled genuinely. How had he not noticed before? "Tyler," Robert said in a trembling voice, "tell me the truth. Who helped you see? The doctors or Rose?" The question cut the boy's heart. He looked at Rose, then at his father, and his words came out like a painful confession. "Rose, Dad. It was always Rose. She gave me medicine in my eyes every night, taught me to feel the world, made me believe I could see. The doctors just hurt me with needles and told me it was impossible." The silence that followed was devastating. Robert felt his world crumble. 3 months of interviews, of bragging to investors, of attributing his son's cure to his unlimited resources. All based on a lie. "You made me look like a fool," he said to Rose, his voice laden with anger and humiliation. "No, Mr. Blackstone. You did that yourself when you decided that love and patience had no value because they came from someone you considered inferior." At that moment, Robert's phone rang. It was his press secretary. "Mr. Blackstone, we need to talk urgently. Someone has leaked information to the Chicago Tribune about the true origin of Tyler's cure." Robert's heart stopped. "What are you talking about?" "The story comes out tomorrow. They have photos, documents, everything. The headline is, Millionaire falsely claimed credit for miracle cure performed by cleaning lady. Mr. Blackstone, this will destroy your reputation. Robert hung up the phone, his hands shaking. Rose watched him calmly. It was you, he accused. You leaked it to the press. I didn't have to leak anything, Mr. Blackstone. The truth has a life of its own. When you gave that last interview last week, saying that unqualified people have no relevance in Tyler's recovery, one of the reporters decided to investigate further. She discovered that the improvements coincided exactly with my arrival, not with the expensive treatments. The next few hours were a nightmare for Robert. The phone wouldn't stop ringing, investors questioning his integrity, company board members demanding explanations, journalists asking for statements. The story spread quickly on social media. Arrogant millionaire stole credit from black woman who actually healed his son. Tyler, confused and frightened by the commotion, took refuge next to Rose. Why is everyone yelling? Did I do something wrong? No, dear. You didn't do anything wrong. You just told the truth, and sometimes the truth upsets those who have been living a lie. Robert, seeing his son choose Rose once again, felt a helpless rage. You planned all this, didn't you? To make me look like a fraud. Rose finally stood up, her voice taking on a tone Robert had never heard before, strong, dignified, unshakable. I planned to heal your son because he needed it. If that exposed your arrogance and prejudice, the responsibility is entirely yours. She turned to Tyler. Honey, I'm going to have to leave for a while. But remember what I always told you? The light is already inside you. No one can take that away. Don't go, Rose. Don't leave me. Tyler rushed to hug her, his eyes, now alive and bright, filled with tears. I can't stay here anymore, Tyler. But our friendship will continue forever. As Rose gathered her few belongings, Robert watched from his office window as reporters gathered in front of the mansion. In a few hours, all of Chicago would know that he had lied publicly, stolen credit from a humble black woman, and treated the only person who truly loved his son like trash. Dr. Harrison called to cancel all future treatments. Robert, I can no longer associate my clinic with this situation. The medical community is furious about the false statements. His partners canceled meetings. Investors reconsidered partnerships. His decades-long reputation was crumbling in real time. But the final blow came when Tyler, standing in the office doorway with his now perfectly functional eyes, said with a maturity that cut Robert's heart, Dad, you always said that people like Rose had no value. But she gave me something all your money could never buy. She made me believe that I deserved to see the world. As Rose walked out the front door, crossing the sea of journalists waiting to hear her side of the story, Robert realized he had lost much more than credibility. He had lost his son's trust and the chance to learn that true wealth had never been in his bank account, but in the calloused hands of the woman he had despised from day one. The woman who, against all odds, had performed the miracle that $3 million in treatments had failed to achieve, and who now walked with her head held high to face a world that would finally recognize her true value, leaving behind a man destroyed by his own arrogance. 6 months later, the Blackstone mansion was for sale with a huge sign at the entrance. Robert had lost 60% of his investors after the public scandal. His consulting firm had gone bankrupt, and $3 million contracts had been canceled. The headlines kept coming. Arrogant CEO steals credit from black woman, and lying millionaire exposed by heroic cleaning lady. Rose, on the other hand, became a national sensation. She appeared on Oprah, signed a contract for a book on traditional medicine, and opened a community clinic funded by donations that reached $2 million. Universities invited her to give lectures on ancestral wisdom and holistic healing. "Donna Rose changed my life," Tyler said in an interview with the Chicago Tribune, his eyes shining with perfect clarity. Now 10 years old, he attended regular school, played soccer, and painted colorful pictures that decorated the modest new house Robert had moved into after selling the mansion. Robert, forced to accept reality, sought out Rose one rainy afternoon. I wanted to apologize," he said, his voice breaking, finding her in the garden of the clinic where she grew the same herbs that had healed Tyler. "You don't need to apologize to me, Mr. Blackstone. You need to apologize to your son and to yourself," Rose replied, handing him a lavender flower. "It's never too late to learn that a person's worth isn't in their bank account." Robert took the flower with trembling hands, realizing that he had wasted years despising the only person capable of giving his son what he needed most: true hope. Tyler ran through the garden, laughing loudly as he chased butterflies that he could now see perfectly. "Rose, look. I can see all the colors." The woman Robert had called just a cleaning lady had done what $3 million in treatments had failed to do. More than that, she had taught a lesson that would echo forever, that true greatness does not come from titles or fortunes, but from the courage to see value where others see only prejudice. As Tyler drew a rainbow in his new notebook, Rose smiled, knowing that she had planted more than a cure in that child's eyes. She had planted the seed of a world where humanity triumphs over arrogance. If this story of overcoming adversity and justice touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that true miracles happen when we stop judging people by their appearance and begin to recognize the